on our second week of our BFF series, of course, Friends theme. Anybody watched Friends before? You're too young! You're too young! Put your hands up! I'm just kidding. Just kidding, kind of. So we were in our second week. Today we're going to be talking about friendship, and we did that game on purpose because that game was about how to work together, right? You really had to make sure that you were walking in lockstep with one another, or else y'all were just falling all over the place. Who had a really easy time with the game? Who's just like, that was easy, smoked that, my partner was great. Who had a really hard time with the game? Was just like, what? That was so difficult? Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. Yeah. Look at your partner and say, you were the worst.
You are not the worst.
So we're going to talk a little bit about today about how to get along, and specifically, we're going to be talking about kindness. Y'all know kindness? Kind of important thing. But before we do that, got another story for you guys. For this one, I'm going to take you back to when little Ben was just a wee kindergartner. Back then, I went to a Christian school. And a lot of you guys go to Christian schools. Nothing wrong with that. But do you ever look back on yourself like 2 or 3 years ago and you think, oh, that was so embarrassing. Like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Oh. That's kind of how this story makes me feel, okay? I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I'm going to tell you guys anyway. So I went to a Christian school from kindergarten through 2nd grade. And then after 2nd grade, I was homeschooled for a few years. Realized, any homeschoolers in here, by the way? Homeschoolers? Yeah, my people. Ellie again. Cool. Yeah. So homeschooled for years. Realized all this time that I was in Christian school and then I was in homeschooling, all of my friends, the only people I came in contact with were other Christians. They were either really Christian friends, like doing all the rules, following the Bible as best they could. And then there were my friends who, my mom would say, they're not really Christians. Right? They would call themselves Christians, but they wouldn't really always live it. But all my friends called themselves Christians. And from what my friends said, and from what was on TV, and from what my parents told me, I had created this idea of what non-Christian people must be like. Because I never run into them. Realized for me, non-Christian people were like Bigfoot. I wasn't even sure they were real, okay? They were out there somewhere. And I had conceived this idea that they must be awful.
No.
Like they must be so mean. Because my Christian friends were already pretty mean to me. So I was like, my non-Christian friends must be really mean. Right? So, that's what I thought. I thought that non-Christian people must like all do drugs, all the drugs, must drink and party, even in kindergarten. They probably torture animals and beat people up. They probably kick homeless people on the street. Right? That's what I thought. Well then one day, I was in 8th grade, I went to a charter school.
So you went from kindergarten to 8th grade?
I went from being homeschooled to going to a charter school. My first school that was not Christian. Dun dun dun!
Everybody's mean to you. Oh wow.
And it was a hard adjustment for me. There were so many people. I was used to just being me and my brother and sister and my mom.
Welcome to the light.
Right. Class took forever. I was used to be able to get in. When I was homeschooled, I'd get school done in like 2 hours. Then be done. I'd wake up at 11 a.m., go to bed at 8 p.m. And, not really that bad. But I had to wake up all early now. I had to interact with other people. It was hard. But I remember this one friend. I made one friend. I made lots of friends, but I remember this one friend specifically. His name was Jeremiah. Jeremiah was not a Christian. So I thought, Jeremiah is going to try to murder and eat me. Except, he never did. Jeremiah, he never tried to offer me drugs, never tried to take me drinking.
Not talk about that.
We never tortured animals together. Like,
Why would you torture?
because he wasn't a Christian. I don't know what these people do.
I will never let you see.
That was how I didn't know what these, like, I didn't know.
Definitely not my fish.
Those secular folk out there in the wild.
So how dare you?
That's what I thought. I had no idea what they would be like. Jeremiah was actually the nicest person I knew. He loved everyone. He made friends with lots of people. He was slow to anger, slow to judge, quick to listen. Jeremiah was actually more like Jesus than anyone I knew. More like Jesus than any of my Christian friends.
What?
And here's the problem with that. The thing I don't understand, and the thing I still don't entirely, the Bible says when Jesus comes and lives with us, he helps us to be kinder, more loving, more humble, and all of these other things, right? So why then would someone like Jeremiah, and for that matter, plenty of other non-Christian friends I've met since and that I've had since, why are they like way nicer than most Christians I know? I think, you guys,
Because some Christians are rude.
I think the problem is us. You and me.
Not really.
Christians. You can disagree with me on this, but I think this is kind of where we're at. I think that this is where we're at least by perception out there in the world. I've brought today with the art of science. The art of science. You would have got that anyway. So, I brought today, with science, I was able to develop the kindness scale. It's called the Benjamin Hauth method.
Cool.
Alright? On the kindness scale, down here you've got Adolf Hitler.
Too bad.
Probably the worst guy ever. Murdered a lot of innocent people. Then here at the top you've got Jesus. And then the rest of us are like somewhere in the middle, right? Does anyone think they're meaner than Hitler?
No.
No. Probably not. Does anyone think they're nicer than Jesus? No. So Jesus is the nicest, Hitler's the meanest. Hitler, well, let's say Hitler slash Satan. Slash Satan. Although Satan could act nice just to like kill you or something, just to trick you. I don't know. But we'll say Hitler slash Satan, basically same guy. Alright, so, for whatever reason, in the last 20, 30 years or so, Christianity, as like a religion, has cared a lot more about telling people what to do and pointing fingers than it has about loving them and being nice.
What?
So right now, just going off of study, personal experience, right now, I was like, the average person is like right here, right? Average person. The average Christian is like down here.
What? I'm no longer a Christian.
Well, that's not good.
You know what?
Are you telling me that non-Christian people are more like Jesus than Christian people?
Not always.
Not always, but this is like what I'm seeing in the world.
Sometimes.
The kindness scale doesn't lie.
Yes, it does.
Right?
Sometimes.
So this is a problem, and this problem makes me really uncomfortable. I don't like it, and it even scares me a little bit. This is the thing. Because if we're really like trying to follow Jesus, then what gives? So let's open up our Bibles today to a passage where Jesus talked about this in John 15, verse 1 through 4. Jackson, lob me a Bible, bro. John 15, 1 through 4. While you're going there, this was written by the Apostle John, dude who walked with Jesus.
Get your Bibles out, no phones, please.
Might have been Jesus' favorite. We don't know. Kind of made it sound like he was Jesus' favorite. But if I was writing about Jesus, I think I would do that too. I'd be like, yo, Jesus loved me way more than the other guys, just by the way. And John wrote this. Actually, he wrote this a little bit after all the other Gospels we have. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Luke. He wrote John a little bit later. This was after he had been banished to the island of Patmos. Really fun to say island. He'd been banished there for being a Christian. That was pretty messed up. Not cool. And he had a lot of time on his hands. So he decided, I'm going to start recounting all of that time I spent with Jesus. He's a really important dude. and I'm going to create these letters and send them out to everybody. So, and John took a different focus than the other Gospels, because the other ones really try to just recount the events and tell them as historically as possible, whereas John didn't even tell his story chronologically, which means like in order of when it happened. John writes the book of John all about the things Jesus said and the way he was as a human. Like basically, what were his interactions with other people. So John is my favorite book of the Bible because it has so much Jesus dialogue, and I love Jesus a lot. Like probably like uncomfortably a lot. Okay? So, we're going to open up here, 15 verse 1. I probably should have been opening it up to that while I was rambling. Probably. And this says, this is Jesus' words, I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitless unless you remain in me. So this is a metaphor. Do you guys know what a metaphor is? Most of you guys. Let me recount it just in case you forgot, or in case there's someone in here who doesn't know. A metaphor is when you use symbolism to explain something. It would be like saying, Miss Sylvia has a heart of gold. Now, that doesn't mean Sylvia's heart is actually gold, so we should cut it out and sell it on the black market.
That's an idiom.
Although, like, that would fetch a good price.
That's an idiom.
That would fetch a good price. I've looked
That's
into
an
it.
idiom.
It's not an idiom, it's a metaphor. So,
It's an idiom.
no, I've researched this beforehand. It's a metaphor. So it doesn't mean it's literally gold. It means she is really nice. It's a metaphor for her heart is great. It's really nice. Do you guys know what so this is a metaphor. Do you guys know what the branches here represent? People.
He's gonna cut him off.
So the grapevine, the trunk of so it's like a tree. The trunk of the tree is Jesus. The branches are us.
He's gonna cut off people.
And then he says, those of you who produce fruit get to stay. Those who don't get cut off. What does the fruit represent?
People. Our pureness.
Well, the fruit represents basically being good, being kind, helping people, serving others, changing the world, being good leaders. He's saying, if you want to be a good person and to do good things, you have to spend time with me. That's where he said, remain in me and I will remain in you. So in order to bear fruit, you have to spend time with Jesus. In order to do good things, to be a better person, you have to spend time with Jesus. Listen, if we're going to be even nicer than the Jeremiahs of the world, and Jeremiah was a great guy. Jeremiah was probably like right here. If we're going to be even nicer than that, even nicer than the Jeremiahs of the world, which realize we're supposed to do, Christians are supposed to be the nicest people. We're not supposed to be down here. What the heck? We're supposed to be like at least up here. At least above average.
Well,
right? Because otherwise, how are we going to help people come to know Jesus if they think we're all like this? If they think we're all halfway to Hitler?
I'm halfway to Hitler. What?
So he's saying if you want to do that, if you want to be up here, if you want to be nice, and if you want to do good things, you have to spend time with Jesus. Have you ever noticed that when you hang out with someone a lot, you start to act like them?
No, not really.
Maybe it's just a joke they told that you then tell later, or a way they say something. I had a student over at Santon campus who I used to hang out with a lot. His name was Jackson. Jackson used to always say the word honestly, like honestly. And so I always say honestly, just like that. It's just fun to say. You guys can all say it. Honestly.
Honestly.
When you hang out with Jesus, which means reading the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and just talking to him, which is all prayer is. Just, hey Jesus, how are you? What's up? Thank you for this, thank you for that. Thank you for food. just talking to him, you're going to start acting more like him. Just like I say honestly because of Jackson, you'll read the words of Jesus and you'll start saying some of those same things. And boys and girls, we need to start acting more like him because right now, Christians are not known as the most loving people or the kindness or the most selfless or the most joyful. Sadly, the things Christians are known for is being judgmental, being too political,
That is not how I act.
being too serious.
How dare. I know.
But, everybody say but.
But.
There is good news.
But.
There is good news. Here's the good news. There are others. There are Christians who aren't just Christians. There are Christians who are also Jesus followers. A Jesus follower isn't just a Christian. A Jesus follower, they aren't just following this religion and pushing these different values. They are living those values, and they are loving others everywhere they go.
No, I see.
Jesus followers are people who are genuinely reading about Jesus, and trying to be like him. They love Jesus so much. When they hear him talk, when they read about him talking, they want to do that. They want to say those things. They want to be like that. Guys, when I read about Jesus, my little heart just goes pitter-pat, pitter-pat. Because I love him. I love the stuff he says. Especially when I read the book of John, because he's got all this dialogue. I love what he says. I love what he does. I want to be like that. That's what being a Jesus follower feels like. It's wanting to be like him. My non-Christian friends are usually nicer than my Christian friends.
That's true.
My non-Christian friends are usually about right here. My Christian friends are usually about right here. My Jesus following friends, they're like up here. My Jesus following friends are the nicest people I know. How do they do it? Jesus followers go above and beyond. Above and beyond. Which means whatever the nice thing is to do, Jesus followers go even farther. They take it like too far. It's like, okay bro, slow down, you're being way too nice. When there's a new kid at your school, the nice thing to do is just to be nice to them, introduce them to some other people. Most of you guys don't even do that. The nice thing to do is to just be nice to them. The Jesus thing to do is to become their first friend. And to hang out with them, to sit with them at lunch, even if it means not sitting with your other friends for that day. Bringing him into your conversation with your other friends, bringing him into your inner circle. Or how's this? When a teacher is having a hard day, and all the other kids are making fun of him or her, and they're just being super disruptive. Maybe it's a substitute teacher. I know you guys give substitutes a hard time. Right? The nice thing to do is to stay out of it, to not participate. Most of you guys don't even do that. The Jesus thing to do is to stand up to the other kids. To tell them to stop. To tell the teacher they're a good teacher and you're glad you're there and you're glad that they care for kids and they love you. The Jesus thing to do is to thank the teacher. At home, here's another one you guys are going to hate. At home, when your mom asks you to do a chore, the nice thing to do is to do it. The Jesus thing to do is what? Do before they ask. To do that chore and then do another chore before they even ask. You want to be like Jesus, that's what you got to do. It's hard. The road to heaven is narrow. The road to hell, the gates are wide open.
Oh, goodness.
Honestly, you guys, all of that stuff sounds great, but it also sounds exhausting.
Yes.
And that's because you can't do any of that on your own. You're selfish. I can't do that on my own. But when you spend time with Jesus, when you actually read about him, when you go into your room, you close the door, and you get down on your knees, and you just talk to him, maybe every day, when you actually spend